This lesson is on dividing polynomials, so this is our first section, 8.6.1 on long division. So the reason that we're dividing polynomials is in order to figure out all the factors, to find the zeros, to then be able to do things such as graphing. So if we're thinking about a division problem, we have our divisor, our dividend, and then our quotient. And our quotient is going to be our final answer. So if we were to think about this in terms of just numbers, if I had the problem 50 divided by 4, if I were to rewrite this in the form shown, I would have 50 divided by 4. And then I can go through and solve to figure out what my quotient is, or my answer, and if I am left with a remainder. So if we were to do this old school long division, if I were to use this problem, 4 divided by 50, I'm looking to see, okay, how many times does 4 go into our first term? 5. So 4 goes into 5 one time. So I write a 1 above the 5. Well, then I take 1 times 4 and write that underneath the 5. And then I go ahead and I subtract those. So 5 minus 4 is 1, and I would bring down the 0. So now I'm thinking, what does 4 multiply into 10? How many times? Well, it multiplies twice. So 4 times 2 is 8. 10 minus 8 is 2. And since I don't have any more places, now I'm at figuring out essentially what my remainder is. So this would become a decimal, and I can add a 0.0, and I'd bring this down. I'd have 20, and 4 goes into 25 times. 4 times 5 is 20, so now I'm left with 0. So my answer would be 12.5. Now this is the process that we're going to be going through in order to divide polynomials. Now 12.5, our answer would be the same thing as our quotient, 12, plus our remainder, which is our 0.5, so it would be 1/2. So looking at our first example, it says find the quotient, our answer, of x to the third power plus 3x squared minus 4x minus 12 divided by x minus 2. So we're going to rewrite this like we did in the last problem. And we have x cubed plus 3x squared minus 4x minus 12 divided by x minus 2. So the biggest thing here is we want to pay attention to our first terms. So our first terms here is x and x to the third power. Now this x here out in front, we're going to use that all the time, the whole way through. That's going to be our most important piece. X cubed is going to be our first term that we're going to start with. So our first thought here is we're doing division, so we have x cubed. Well, what is x cubed divided by x? So I'm going to write this off to the side. So we want to think x cubed divided by x. Well, when we're dividing things with exponents, we're just subtracting our exponents. So we have 3 x's, we take away 1, we're left with 2. So we have x squared. So this is what's going to go up top. That's the first piece of our quotient. So we have x squared. Now we want to take x squared and multiply it by our divisor on the outside. So we have x squared times x, which is x cubed. And then x squared times -2, which is -2x squared. From here, we're going to subtract. So one way to think about it is draw a line, change the signs. So I'm going to change this to subtraction, and then this was already negative, so it's going to become positive. our first two terms are going to cancel out. That's always going to happen. X cubed minus x cubed is 0, goes away. Then we have 3x squared plus 2x squared. So we're left with 5x squared. Well, we have one term here and we have two terms in our divisor, so we need to bring down our next term, minus 4x. Now we're going to look at our first term, and our first term here now is not x cubed, but it's 5x squared. So now I want to think, okay, 5x squared divided by x. What am I left with? Well, 5 divided by 1 is 5, and x squared divided by x is 1x. So this is going to go up top plus 5x. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to multiply it. So 5x times x is 5x squared, and 5x times negative 2 is negative 10x. Now I want to subtract, so I draw my line, change my signs. 5x squared minus 5x cancels, which is what we're looking for, and negative 4 plus 10x is 6x. I bring down my last term, and I use my first term out in front, so 6x divided by x. 6 divided by 1 is 6. X divided by x is no x's, so the x goes away and it's just 6. So now I multiply that in, so 6 times x is 6x. 6 times negative 2 is negative 12. Draw my line, change my signs, and 6x minus 6x is 0, it goes away, and negative 12 plus 12 is 0. So at the end, I'm left with 0, so I have no remainder. There's nothing left. So my answer is my quotient here up on top. So when I divide my two polynomials, my final answer is x squared plus 5x plus 6. And I don't have any remainder, so I don't have to worry about adding that on. For our next example, we want to find the quotient of x cubed plus 48 divided by x plus 3. So this example is really important because, as we can see, we have x cubed plus 48. So we're missing x squared, we're missing x. And since we're missing those terms, we need to make sure to still incorporate them. However, since they're not actually there, we need to have 0x squared or 0x, because they still need to be accounted for. However, they're represented by a 0. So how we would go ahead and write this is, we have x cubed plus 0x squared plus 0x plus 48 divided by x plus 3. So we always have to go in descending order and make sure we hit all of our powers. So we have x cubed plus 0x squared plus 0x plus 48. Now we're still going to focus on our lead term. So we're focusing on our x, and we're going to start with our x cubed. So like in the last example, we want to think, what is x cubed divided by x? Well, it's x squared. So that's what we're going to bring up to the top. And we're going to take x squared and multiply it by x plus 3. So x squared times x is x cubed. X squared times 3 is 3x squared. Now we want to draw our line, change our signs, and then we're going to add going down. So x cubed minus x cubed is 0. And then 0x squared minus 3x squared is going to be negative 3x squared. We're dividing by a binomial, so we need to bring down a second term. And we want to look at our lead term here. So we have negative 3x squared. Well, what's negative 3x squared divided by x? We have negative 3x. So we multiply that in. Negative 3x times x is negative 3x squared. Negative 3x times 3 is negative 9x. And we draw our line, change our signs. Add them up, negative 3x squared plus 3x squared is 0. And 0x plus 9x is going to be 9x. Drop down our plus 48. 9x divided by x is 9. 9 times x is 9x. 9 times 3 is 27. Draw my line, change my signs. So now I can see my 9x's cancel, and 48 minus 27 is going to give me 21. So this 21 is left over. So this is going to be my remainder because I have nothing else to bring down. So after I divide in x plus 3, I'm left with 21. So how I'm going to go ahead and write my final answer is I have my quotient, which is x squared minus 3x plus 9, but I have this 21 left over. And it's 21, everything we're dividing by x plus 3. Since it doesn't go in evenly, we leave it as this fraction of 21 divided by x plus 3. So this would be my final answer. X squared minus 3x plus 9 plus 21 divided by x plus 3 being my remainder.